We have just over 1 month left in the year, and the Pokemon market is completely crazy. I'm talking about Scarlet and Violet era as well as Sword and Shield era. Both of these eras are having major increases with their singles, as well as some of their sealed products. Today, we're going to be looking at what is actually happening. And really, the point of this video today is to make sure that for those of you who are in the market buying cards, just to be cautious because it's a little bit too hot right now. Let's dive in. So the first card we're going to be looking at today is the Pikachu EX. Yes, the Pikachu EX from Surging Sparks, the SIR, the card that everybody wants, the card that is very difficult to pull, and the card that is very expensive right now. As per TCG Player, this card is currently going for $460 USD. That's insane. For a card to just come out this kind of price is crazy. And to really look at the price here, it was actually even more expensive about a couple weeks ago, or even a week ago, that is. It was around $590, $560. So it has trickled back a bit already. But the reason why I want to talk about this card is because look at the price of the PSA 10. We're looking at 2,600 USD. That is completely insane. Insane for a brand new card. I mean, like Moonbreon wasn't even at these levels. Like, and it's still not at these levels. PSA 10 for Moonbreon, we're gonna look at that later, is probably around $1,600 to $1,800. And Pikachu is at $2,600 already, 2 weeks in. Insane. PSA 9 going for $669. That is also a bit crazy to have that much of a gap for a 10 and a 9. I really don't get what's going on there. I think there's a little bit of FOMO. There's a little bit of overhype. The market is way too hot right now, and I would just be very cautious. This is just the first example of me explaining that we just really need to be cautious right now when buying singles because they're just way too overpriced. And yes, there is the concept of Surging Sparks is super expensive. We're going to look at the price of the booster box as well today. But the pull rates, in fact, are the major, in my honest opinion, one of the major factors for this card being that expensive. I mean, we're looking at around 1 in 1,000. From last time we checked, it was 960 for a specific illustration rare, that is, or a special illustration rare. And that is playing a major factor in why this card is really up there in price. And honestly, I don't foresee it being that high in the future. I think it should trickle down a little bit. That's just my honest opinion. The PSA 9, however, I think that's quite low in comparison to what the PSA 10 is. And as this card ages, I think those two will come a little bit closer together in price. What do I see this being? I honestly don't know. It's way too early in the game for this card specifically. But Surging Sparks, we need to see a reprint. We need to see a reprint of this set, and like a heavy one, and that will make a difference in the price of these cards. So Pikachu EX is a crazy price right now, and it's a definite hold for me. I would not be purchasing this card. I would not be purchasing a PSA 10 for sure. I would still be chasing it, if you want my honest opinion. I'd still be chasing this card if it was me, and yeah, that's just my opinion on the Pikachu EX from Surging Sparks. The next one we're looking at is Latias, also from Surging Sparks. There's going to be a number of cards we're going to look at from Surging Sparks today because Surging Sparks is actually the major driver of this whole craziness that's happening right now. Because look at the PSA 10 here. A PSA 10, $2,000. I'm sorry, there's no way. $202 as per TCG Player, eBay 190, Card Market 183. And yes, I mean, I've seen some listings there that are really up there. $2,000, again, population is pretty low. We're looking at 5, so I think we'll see this one drop as well. Again, overpriced. The market is way too hot. Latias also falling in that same category, so I would really be cautious when buying this card. Again, if Surging Sparks, I would be attempting to pull this because it's still a relatively new set. For the product, for sealed product itself, if you can get a decent price with it, that is, I'd be still attempting to at least pull this card. Some people may disagree with that statement as well because 1 in 960 are some really crazy odds for a specific special illustration rare, that is, and this falls in that category, so I could see why the price would be a little bit higher, just not at the $2,000 mark. So just to highlight, Latias EX also at a crazy price right now. I would not be touching this card for a PSA 10 for sure, and even for the TCG Player price or eBay price, if you want to look at either one of those, it's still a bit expensive. And as I mentioned earlier, these are US dollar prices that we're talking about here. So if you were to buy this in Canada, you're looking at maybe around 270 as per TCG Player, and eBay that would be like 2700, I would say. It's completely insane. So market is unbelievable right now, especially for Surging Sparks cards. And we're going to touch on one more Surging Sparks card here, and it is the Pikachu EX, the gold card. And usually gold cards don't do that well, and here we're seeing at 96.59 as per TCG Player, and a PSA 10 is going for $1,250. That is crazy. That is just crazy for a gold card. So it's 3 cards now that we've looked at from Surging Sparks, all over $1,000 for PSA 10. All of them, or almost all of them, are above $100 US. For these cards, and we haven't seen any set from the Scarlet and Violet era so far with these kind of numbers for multiple cards, that is, right out the gate. And in reality, none of the sets right now actually have a card or more than one card that's valued at $100 or more. So Surging Sparks is completely a different beast, a different animal. $96.59, it's pretty up there for a gold card, and $12.50 for a PSA 10 is insane. And just to wrap this all up, we're looking at the Surging Sparks booster box here. This one just continues to rise. I mean, we're talking about like $130 at the end of October, and we are at $205, and we are still a week away from ending November. This is crazy. $70 gain, 53% gain in the month. It's just unbelievable, and it just continues to climb. I'm hoping that for the sake of the collectors out there, that this price goes down, or there's at least a reprint, I should say. And if that does happen, that of course will drop the price. I don't know to what extent, because even with a reprint or a restock or whatnot, you're looking at maybe what, 20%, depending on how heavy that restock or that reprint is. $205 is crazy for a Scarlet and Violet era booster box. Haven't seen anything like that. The market is completely on fire. I've said it 3 times now. It's just way too high right now. I don't know if there's a bit of FOMO going on, but in reality, it's just a hold off kind of moment right now for a lot of these products. And just to look at one more card from this era as well, from the Scarlet and Violet era, before we touch on some Sword and Shield, Magikarp also is having a bit of a climb here. So if we look at like the last, I would say, even if you look at from the beginning of the month here, a PSA 10 has gone from around $660 up to about $760, almost $100 gain in just 1 month. That's crazy for this card. I mean, yes, it's getting older. Paldea Evolved probably won't have any more reprints or restocks at this point, which is probably playing a bit of a factor into why this card has gone up so much. So $760, almost up $100 in 1 month. The Magikarp, the illustration rare Magikarp. PSA 9 for some reason is only going for $156. It's really interesting to me to see these prices with a PSA 10 and a PSA 9. It's just so off that I don't agree with it. And you know, maybe some people will disagree with me, especially those who are really into collecting PSA 10s, but a 9 should not be off by that much. And that may also be an indicator showing us that the market is a little bit crazy right now, because I don't agree with that. And again, looking at the TCG Player price here, looking at $160 raw, the PSA 9 is $5 less than that. That's insane. That's insane in my opinion. So Magikarp also having some crazy gains at the moment. And now we're going to look at a couple of Sword and Shield era cards, and we've touched on some of these cards a little bit earlier in the month when we were talking about what's going on with the Sword and Shield era. And Moonbreon is a card that I wanted to highlight because it's also having some crazy gains right now. Just looking at it from a month perspective, we were at around 1450, 1460 in the beginning of November, end of October that is. And we have gone up to almost $1,800. We're at $1,790. That's like almost a $200+ gain here. That is insane. Moonbreon, PSA 10, going for $1,791. And looking at the PSA 9 as well, we're looking at around $960 at the end of October. And that one has gone all the way up to $1,126. So almost a couple $100 there for that card as well, for the PSA 9 that is. So PSA 9 also making some movements there. Again, a little bit of a difference here as well. We're looking at around $500-600 difference between a PSA 10 and a PSA 9. As per TCG Player, $1,388 for this card. So the raw copy, if you want to call it that, the raw copy is going for more than a PSA 9. I'm sorry, I completely disagree with that. Pull rate for a Moonbreon from Evolving Skies is completely insane. Completely insane. And the fact that a PSA 9 is only going for $1,100 and the raw is going for $1,388 just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. $17.91, yeah, that makes sense. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, the Pikachu is actually going for more than this right now. I think it will drop, as I mentioned, for the Pikachu. Moonbryon will continue to rise as time goes, but Pikachu will also get backed up. I'm very curious to see what these cards would look like in about a year between the Moonbryon and the Pikachu, just to see what that price point looks like. But yeah, Moonbryon is having some crazy gains as well. Again, Moonbryon, Evolving Skies, aging, packs, and booster box is getting more expensive, of course, and that is also pushing the Moonbryon up in price as well. And since we're on the topic of Evolving Skies, Rayquaza VMAX also having some heavy gains here. We're looking at around 650 around the the end, I should say, of October, and we have climbed all the way up to 750. So about a couple $100 there for a PSA 10. PSA 9 is going for 405. It should be a little bit higher in my opinion. Similar issue we're having with the Moonbryon, $467 at TCG Player and then only $405 for PSA 9. I think it's a little bit crazy for that. At the end of the day, it's still having some gains. It's gone up almost a couple $100 from a PSA 10 perspective. And similar to what we were saying with Moonbryon, it's aging. The Evolving Skies booster box as well as booster packs are getting more expensive. And it is the holiday season, and that could also be what's pushing these cards a little bit more in price as well, with the FOMO that's happening right now. And the last card we're going to look at quickly is Giratina V, because that one is also having some crazy gains. $387 as per TCG Player. However, a PSA 10 is going for almost $1,000, $982. And this one has gone from 770, I would say 780, all the way up to that $980 mark. So about a $200 gain as well for this one. PSA 9, significant difference. We're looking at $385.15. Quite low if you ask me. Again, similar issue we're having here with the TCG Player, as PSA 9 is less than what the TCG Player market price is. And I mentioned that earlier, I don't agree with that whole concept. I think the PSA 9s should be a little bit higher than a TCG Player price, but it is what it is. But Giratina V also falling in that category of a major increase, about $200 with the Rayquaza as well as the Moonbryon. And I'm sure there are many others that are also in the same boat right now from the Sword and Shield era, as well as some cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. So that was just a quick look at some of the singles that are having some crazy movements right now. I'm sure there are many others. My personal opinion on this right now is to really be cautious, especially with the Surging Sparks booster box and Surging Sparks singles, that is, because they are just completely out of balance. The Pikachu, $500, okay, sure, maybe that's what it should be in like a couple of years, and we have seen the Pikachu gone down. To be fair, it's gone down quite a few bucks, but still quite expensive. Yes, the pull rates are difficult with it. I think once the set is more available, and hopefully it does become more available, you'll see those Surging Sparks cards go down a little bit. I don't think they'll go down to the point where it's like $100 or $200 for the Pikachu, but you know, maybe you'll see it go down a little bit less than $400, and I think at that point, if you really want to pick it up because you're having difficulty trying to pull this card, I would go for it at that point. Similar to the Moonbryon and the Giratina V and Rayquaza that we touched on today, a little bit pricey right now. It's on a little bit of a high. I would just watch out for it a little bit because I think those cards will drop, especially we're going to have a lot more sets coming out in the new year, such as Prismatic Evolutions and of course the Team Rocket and whatnot, and that's going to drive the attention towards those cards that might drop the value of these a little bit. But as of right now, the market is a little bit too hot in my honest opinion, and I'd be very cautious when buying Surging Sparks cards specifically, as well as some of these alternate arts from the Sword and Shield era. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on these cards and the price movement, and if there are other cards that are having some heavy movement, and what you think is going on with the Pokemon market and the singles market specifically that's driving these prices up. And if you guys got this far in the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. My name's TRV. You guys are the greatest, and we'll see you next time.